r/nosleep. Posted by you/RisingMac. I didn't really believe my house was haunted. That is, until my Christmas lights started flashing a coded message. It's Christmas again. After last year, I'm not sure it'll ever be the same for me again, but then again, I'm not sure how many more I actually have anyway. I'm an old man. I don't know what a Reddit even is, but after I told my grandson what was happening, he told me that after it was over, if I write it down on paper, he knows exactly where he can retype it and post it on the internet. He's the only other person who knows exactly what happened. Like I said before, I'm old. I'm 84 years old now, but if I had $1 for every time someone told me I'm a good 84, well, I'd probably be able to buy something nice. I'm fairly healthy. I still walk without a cane, not even a shred of dementia, and apparently I still have cartilage in all my joints, because they don't hurt. I'm also a widower. My wife of 63 years died 2 years ago of natural causes, so I'm on my own now, and that's kind of where we begin. After my wife's death, I decided it was time to downgrade. I made the decision to move into a much smaller condo than our old house. I just didn't need all that stuff anymore. It didn't take me long to find a new place, surprisingly. After only a couple weeks, I found a unit in a nice subdivision that I thought was going to be out of my range, but for whatever reason this place was roughly half the price of the others. I figured I'd have a look. My oldest son tried to warn me it was probably a shitter, or some hidden reason why it's so cheap, but I told him not to worry. Like I said, my marbles are still all there, so I'm not about to get scammed on some shitter condo unit. I showed up for the showing and it wasn't a shitter. Quite the opposite, actually. This place was clean and bright, like it had been renovated within the past few years. It had 2 bedrooms, which I wanted for when family comes to visit, and an upstairs loft where I could put a pull-out sofa or something if I had multiple guests. It wasn't anything special, to be honest, but I didn't get the vibe it was a shitter, or had ever been a shitter actually, but there's only so much you can see. It's what's behind the walls where things can get scary. So the agent and I are in the kitchen and I say, let's be blunt, what's with the price? I don't actually say shitter, but I mention the price being low, too low for this area. It's because nobody seems to stay here, she said. She was blunt herself. What do you mean? I asked her. I'm just basing this off what people have said, she started. People have claimed it's haunted. I kind of stare at her for a minute, not sure if she's serious. There aren't any reports of anyone actually seeing anything, but things like lights flickering, strange noises, voices, shadow people. I cut her off and asked her what shadow people meant. You know, you think you see something in the corner of your eye and when you look, it's gone. Even the last person to live here just up and left. Vanished, we never heard from him again. Now, I'm pretty skeptical. In my 84 years I've never had any experience that makes me think ghosts are real, so honestly, being haunted doesn't actually deter me at this point. How do I know there aren't bigger issues, plumbing or water damage or something I can't see? I asked her, playing hardball. She proceeded to show me dozens of home inspections over the past few prospective buyers, all on her tablet. In my day she'd have had a briefcase with hard copies of them all. How times change. Anyway, we're looking through things and she's showing me reports, including multiple electricians who, as recently as 6 months prior, can't find a thing wrong with the electric that might be causing flickering or power surges. From what I'm seeing, everything is turning out on this place. I'm thinking to myself, if this place is so cheap because it's haunted, I'm the one scamming them. So I decide to take one last little tour by myself while she heads outside. The living room is right inside the front door, then the kitchen. There's a little hallway between the living room and kitchen, with a bedroom on either side, leading to a staircase up to the loft. I turned on lights and left them on, I ran water out of all the faucets, and I flushed the toilets. There was no sign of any nefarious spirit activity, so I'm pretty much sold at this point. I take a few days to think about it and get back with the agent to tell her I'll take it. It's the end of November when I'm moving in a couple weeks later. I left out to my family the part about the ghosts. I didn't want to deal with whatever they'd say. To me, it was a stupid reason not to proceed. Anyway, things are good for a few weeks, but after about the middle of the 3rd week, that's when it started. I'm standing in my kitchen mixing my food I was warming up when the overhead light flickered. It flickered multiple times. Normally I wouldn't think much of it. My old house the lights would flicker when I ran the microwave sometimes, but the thing is I hadn't run the microwave in a few minutes. Nothing was running that might have taxed the electricity at that point. So the light flickers a couple times and I'm standing there thinking, you son of a bitch house. I didn't believe in hauntings, so I'm still skeptical at this point. It's just ironic. The lights don't flicker again until the next week, but by then some other things had started, though I didn't know at the time what they meant. I kept waking up at the same time every night. My clock always read 3:33 a.m. when my eyes would seemingly just open. This went on for about a week and it was starting to piss me off. I wasn't getting good sleep either when I did get some. And this was something else I didn't realize. I kept dreaming about people needing help. There were ship captains and sailors drowning in the water who needed me to toss them a lifesaver floaty. There were people on the side of the road with a flat tire. There were people in a fire that were trapped. The situations differed, but they all seemed to be focusing on the need to be helped or saved. Something I did notice, however, was that the people I was dreaming about I didn't recognize. I never forget a face, let me tell you, and I can sit here and tell you I had never seen any of those people before I was dreaming about. Even though I'm old and don't surf the internet, I have heard the theory that you only dream about people you've seen in your life. That part had me a little worried, but at the same time I'm no sleep expert. Maybe it didn't mean anything. It's getting close to Christmas at this point, so I buy myself a brand new fake tree. It's pre-lit and everything, easy peasy, pull it out of the box and stand it up. Now this damn tree is what made me a believer. I set the thing up that day and plug her in and put the few ornaments that I have that are special to me on it and let it be. That night I turn it on, it's in my living room in front of the window, where everyone puts their trees, and sit on my couch with my Kindle. I can't believe we read books on computers now. So I'm sitting there and the lights on the tree start flashing, blinking on and off. I think to myself, God fucking damn it. The lights hadn't flickered in a while it had seemed, and we're right back at it with my brand new tree. I get up off the couch and go out to the garage to get the box. I'm thinking to myself, Christmas decorations all flash these days, maybe somehow I turn the feature on. So I bring the box in and I'm looking for instructions and don't really see anything. The guy at the store didn't mention either that the tree even had an option to make the lights flash. At this point it had been about 5 minutes and the lights were still blinking. The flickering lights before had never lasted this long. I sit back down pondering my next move. Do I return it? Do I call an electrician finally? I decide I'm going to just turn the tree off at this point and figure it out tomorrow. As I stand up something catches my eye. I don't know what made me think of it or how I even noticed, but there was something off about how the lights were blinking. After watching it for another minute or two I noticed a repeating pattern. 3 quick flashes, 3 longer flashes, then 3 quick flashes. Over and over. This hits me like a ton of bricks. I didn't mention it before, but I was in the Navy, I'm familiar with Morse code. But I guess you don't have to know anything about Morse code to know its most well-known call. I don't want to believe it, I can't believe it, but I'll be damned if my Christmas tree isn't calling out an SOS. At this point I realize this place isn't right. I did get scammed. They were right, this place is haunted. Suffice it to say, I didn't sleep that night. The next day I called my youngest grandson, who's in his mid-20s, to tell him what's going on. He's into ghosts and scary stories and the paranormal. I explain the history of the place, flickering lights, past tenants up and leaving in the middle of the night, strange dreams, etc. Honestly, Pops, this is textbook, he said. Flickering lights, waking up at the same time every night, especially in the 3 a.m. hour, strange dreams, it sounds like someone, or something, is trying to communicate with you from the other side. The other side. Christ. I ask him what I should do. We have to be very careful, he starts. I notice right away he said we. He was all in at this point. We don't know what it is. It sounds like it's human given you're dreaming about multiple people. But it could also be a trick. It could be something much worse trying to trick you into inviting it into this realm. I can come over tomorrow and we can have a look around. There might be something hidden in your place that might help us. How can we know? I asked him. Tonight, if your tree flashes like that again, ask it out loud what it means. Whatever it is can probably hear you, it just can't talk to you. If it responds, ask it very simple, obvious questions. I really think I should be there, he added. I didn't want him there if things went to shit. You just come tomorrow like we planned. If the tree responds tonight, I'll fill you in. I won't do anything without you. I wait until about 8:30 p.m. that night to start our little experiment. It's plenty dark out so I flip on the tree and wait. I left that tidbit out, but my grandson mentioned spirits are more active at night, so this is why I decided to wait until evening. Anyway, after a couple minutes, sure as shit, my tree starts sending out SOS again. At this point I'm nervous, but I wouldn't say scared. I see your SOS, I call out to nobody. I'm not entirely sure what I should say at this point. As I speak though, the flashing stops. Do you need help? The tree lights flash again in a different sequence. I don't catch it at first, I'm rustier than I thought. Hang on, I say out loud. It stops flashing. I go and get my cell phone and bring it to the living room. I Google Morse code and it immediately brings up a cheat sheet. Technology these days is amazing. I know I keep saying that, but I just can't get over it. Okay, try again. The tree begins its sequence again. I write it down on my notepad I have on the table next to the couch. I'm making this a little bit easier to read. The indicates the break between each letter. The is a long flash, the is a short flash. Long flash, short, long. Short, E. Yes. I had asked it if it needed my help. Where are you? I ask. The tree lights flashed in the following sequence. Trapped. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I can't believe this is happening. Honestly, part of me thought maybe it wasn't and I really was starting down the road towards Alzheimer's or dementia or just plain old losing my mind. The tree lights started flashing on their own again. I studied it for a few cycles before picking it up. Vanity. I didn't know exactly what that meant at the time. I know what vanity is, but at that point I was losing my mind. I needed to be done. I decided I would sleep out in the van that night. It's a full-size conversion van, we used it for trips. Despite the time of year, with a couple blankets it wasn't that cold out. Not only that, it was some of the best sleep I'd had since I moved in, probably because I pulled it out onto the street. No dreams, no noises, no waking up. My grandson came over the next morning as planned. I told him what had happened. Vanity? He said. Like, the emotion? The ghost is vain maybe? I reiterated to him I sure as hell didn't know. Hey, wait a minute, he said, his face brightening. The vanity in the bathroom maybe. I have two bathrooms, the main one and the little one in the master bedroom. We go to the main bathroom first. There actually isn't a vanity in here, it's mostly just a sink with a small counter to put your stuff like toothbrushes etc. So we go to the master bath next, and this must be what it was talking about. The vanity is decent size, it has double sinks and plenty of counter space. It has two large doors to put all your crap underneath so you don't have to see it. Let's open it up and see if anything looks strange, my grandson said. Since I hadn't lived here but a few weeks I didn't have much under there yet. What do you think we're looking for? I ask. I'm sitting on the toilet hunched over while he's kneeling looking into the vanity. There's definitely nothing out of the ordinary here, he said. But, he paused. I wonder. He fiddled around with the bottom, floor, of the vanity. Then he touched the back panels, there were two of them separated in the middle. The one on the left wiggled. It gave it a harder press and it fell back, revealing a hole in the wall. I knew it, he exclaimed. He shined my flashlight into the open hole in the wall. There's some stuff in there, he said. He crawled into the vanity. Be careful now, damn it, I snap. He starts. Nope. Nope, 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 he starts backing out, he's got something. No, he continues. Hell no. He holds up what he has and starts standing up. It's a Ouija board. This is outta here, he says. I'm putting it in the trash and wheeling your bin out of your garage. I have a general idea of what Ouija boards do. Why exactly has that got you so frazzled? I ask him. I guarantee whatever is going on in this place, this thing here is what started it. He took it out and came back a minute or so later. There's something else in there, he said, crawling back in. He came out with a small, weathered book in his hand. He opens it up and flips through a couple pages. This looks like a diary, he said. There's a lot of entries in here talking about the same things you're experiencing. We leaf through some pages together sitting on my bed. This book has entries dated back 20 years. We checked the first couple pages for any clues, and sure enough we found some. I will share a couple tidbits here. There are more to these entries, but I'll just include the important parts. October 20th, 1996, our research seems to have finally paid off. We found a spirit we can probably summon. We just need a way to communicate with it. October 22nd, 1996, Christine brought home a Ouija board. Of course. October 27th, 1996, something has been talking to us through the board and told us how to invite him in. Based on our research of spirit behavior, if we answer its question, it'll be bound to us and grant us a wish. October 31st, 1996, tonight is the night. We're going to summon tonight. We have it figured out. It's going to ask us a riddle. If we answer it correctly it's bound to us and must do as we command. If we answer wrong, drawing of skull and crossbones. After my grandson and I read these couple entries, he looks up at me worried. Pops, 100% chance this thing they tried to summon is a demon. I ask him how we even know this is real. We flip through some pages. There were years of entries of people writing about the same thing. Over time more and more was discovered about this supposed demon. Apparently it was bound to this house. My grandson said demons like to bind themselves to people, but this wasn't unheard of. Several different owners of my house corroborate that this thing is, in fact, able to be summoned. There were entries from people adding to the backstory of this thing. There were entries of people stating their intent to summon it. There were taunts from people towards previous owners who obviously failed the creature's riddle. There were entries of people asking how anybody could be stupid enough to try and summon the creature with intent to gain riches. And there were entries of people saying they're getting the hell out of here. These entries were all the way through the 2000s up until now. My grandson and I spent a few good hours looking through this book. We uncovered two vital pieces of information. One, it is in fact a demon of some kind, and despite their lies and treachery, answering its riddle did in fact bind it to you. However, it was imperative you phrased it correctly and told it exactly what you wanted. If you wanted to be invisible, make sure it didn't make you invisible permanently. Or don't wish for $1 million car. Wish for the car and also that no one will ever ask where you got it. 2. Answering its riddle incorrectly, which as far as I could tell was everyone who went up against it at that point, bound you to it. Meaning, essentially, your soul was his and you'd be trapped with it in this house forever. This is heavy, Pops. My grandson said. I think we just need to get out of here. You need to move. Here, I said. Give me that diary. I wanted to look at the last person before me to see if they wrote anything. They had. March 18, 2018, I'm going to summon him tonight. I know exactly what I'm going to wish. Those poor souls locked up here for decades. This has to end. Now. God be with me. Susan, I'm sorry. He tried to take it on, my grandson said. I wonder what his wish would have been. It sounds like it would have been something selfless. He lost. Poor son of a bitch. That's where he went then, I guess, I said, remembering the agent had said the previous owner vanished almost overnight. I'm taking it on, name hidden, I told him. What? No, you're not. Why? Look what he wrote. He tried to save everyone before him, I said. I flipped some more pages. Here's another one saying someone else wanted to get rid of it. At this point, I can't just move. I'm a believer now. Knowing there's people trapped here, in eternal damnation. This thing is going to keep taking. It has to be stopped. What if they brought it on themselves? He asked. Some did, some didn't. Sure, they all summoned it, but some not for personal gain. Knowing there is even one person trapped here who tried to summon it to kill it is enough for me. I can't turn my back on them now. The riddle could be anything. Even a trick. You're going to need my help. The hell I am, I say sternly. We have usual argument you see on TV. He's as stubborn as I am. I'm just going to summon it myself then, right now, he said. I concede. Okay. After Christmas then, so we don't ruin everyone's holiday if we lose. 3 days from now, come over at night and we'll summon him. We won't lose, he said. I'll do nothing but study the internet for riddles the next few days. Christmas Day we can finalize our game plan. We spent a couple more hours together that day doing non-ghost related things. He left in the afternoon, and I got to work. I know what you're thinking, and I'll take this time to apologize to you, name hidden. What the hell kind of grandfather would I be if I summoned a demon with my grandson and put him in that kind of danger willingly? I didn't, and never intended to. I told him 3 days from now so we could work on our plan, but the truth is I was summoning it alone the very next night. I formulated my own plan, which basically just equated to answering the riddle correctly. After 84 years, I think I've seen and heard a few things. I felt my odds were good. The next day was it. Judgment Day. I went about my day doing normal things and getting ready for Christmas dinner. We would be breaking in my new place with a fat turkey. At 6:30 p.m. I took the turkey out and put it on the counter. It was frozen and needed to thaw. I would summon at 7:30. 7:30 rolled around and I took the diary with the instructions on how to summon the creature. You had to cut your hand with a knife, smear blood on a closed door, then recite the invitation. I decided to use my main bathroom door. The creature did have a name. It was very strange to read and say, but for obvious reasons I'm not telling anyone. The original incantation to summon it and bind it to the house was different anyway. I step up to the door. I cut my palm with a steak knife, just like you see in the movies, and smear it on the door. Demon's name here, accept this blood offering. Open this door and enter this realm. I invite you in of my own free will. Nothing happened. I decide to go into the kitchen to tend to my hand. I'm cleaning it out and getting ready to wrap it when I hear the bathroom door open behind me. I turn around and see a creature of pure shadow. It's total blackness, not an ounce of color. It looked humanoid, but what should have been its arms were far too long. They also looked somehow contorted. I couldn't make out any discernible legs. It was as if it was wearing an oversized kilt of total shadow. And it was floating in the air. It floated towards me slowly. It was about 6 or so inches off the ground. "Good evening," it said softly. Its voice was smooth and took me off guard. I was expecting something raspy or deathly sounding, or at least a lot deeper. "You know the rules." "Yes," I said. "Ask me your question." I'm still standing at my sink. "Give me something warm, I'll cool it down. Give me something cold, I'll warm it up. What am I?" That was a tricky one, all right. I started thinking things over right away. "I'm sure you smart internet folks already have an answer." "Give up?" it asked hopefully. I shit you not, it asked if I gave up after literally 10 seconds. "Hell no, I don't give up," I told it. "I'm thinking about it." I started thinking about appliances for some reason. Microwaves or ovens certainly warm things up. But you don't put something in the oven to make it cold. Stupid. The weather maybe? I mean, going outside in winter or summer could change the temperature of something. Then again, also only one way. You don't go outside when it's 95 degrees out and get cooled down. Most of the things I was thinking about were one or the other, not capable of making things both warm and cold. What about water? When it's hot, jumping into the pool feels great. When it's cold, the hot tub feels amazing. But that's getting pretty specific. I'm thinking to myself, there's too much variation in potential temperatures of water to be able to heat up or cool down something at the same time. Too much thinking. It's a riddle, the answer will be simple. "Time's almost up," it said. Honestly, at this point, I'm surprisingly unconcerned for my own well-being. Something else enters my mind. My grandson. He's going to notice I'm missing immediately. He's going to find the blood on the door. He's going to know what I did and that I failed. He'll then try and summon it himself to save me. That I simply could not allow. I think harder. I know my time is running out. I glance to my right and see the turkey thawing out on the counter, thick with condensation already. It's not going to get eaten. Shit. It's going to sit on that counter for 2 or 3 days now, getting warmer and warmer and be spoiled by Christmas. Oh my God. That's it. I have it. I know the answer, it just popped in there at that exact moment. "Time's up," it cooed. I have an answer, I tell it. It appeared to straighten up, as if it had been hunched over slightly. "Your room temperature." The silence was deafening, as they say. A good 10 seconds go by, though it feels like an hour, before it speaks again. "What is it that you desire most?" it asked. It sounded very annoyed. Immortality? Deceased family returned to life? Riches beyond compare? Make your wish. I didn't want any of that bullshit. Why in the hell would I want to live forever while I watch the rest of my family, my kids, grandkids, greats, and so on all come and go? My wife had her time on this world. As have I. I don't even know how many years I have left. Bringing her back now only for us to probably die again in a couple of years wouldn't be very smart. I'll see her again. As for riches, I didn't have any need for that either. We all make our own way in this world. Get rich quick schemes never work, and asking a demon to make it happen is bound to end badly. No, I had something else in mind. Something better. "Here's what I want, and you listen carefully," I began. "You're bound to me now, and you will do as I say. And I say you go back to whatever spirit realm you came from. Go back and never return. But before you do, you're going to release every soul that you have imprisoned. Their spirits are to go free immediately so they can finally face their final judgment before God Almighty Himself. He'll decide where they go, not you." The creature didn't speak again. After a few seconds it slowly started floating backwards, there was a whooshing kind of sound, and it was gone. I stood in my kitchen for a couple minutes, wrapping my hand up. I decided I would go to the local ER, it looked like I might need a couple stitches. Don't believe the movies where the main character slices their hand and ignores it. Christ, that hurt. Anyway, I did need stitches. I lied of course and said I was getting the turkey ready early for Christmas. They bought it of course. They get more hand slices and cuts on Thanksgiving and Christmas than the rest of the year combined. When I got home I burned the diary out on my cement patio. I called my grandson the next day and told him. He was disappointed of course, but he's old enough to understand. You don't put the ones you love in danger, no matter how much help they may be. He wanted to know everything, what the riddle was, more importantly, how I figured it out. I told him I was looking at the turkey thinking how it was going to keep warming up until it sat out too long and spoiled. Then it hit me, if it was cooked it would come out of the oven hot. If I set it out and left it on the counter the same way, it would get cold. That's the thing about room temp, no matter what temperature something may be, it'll eventually all be the same if it sits out long enough. He asked if anything felt different about my house now, and even after only one day it really did. The atmosphere seemed lighter. I wouldn't say I ever had feelings of dread in my house, but I just had this feeling that things were okay now. It's hard to explain. Everything just felt right. Well, that's about the end of my little tale, I guess. That was almost a year ago exactly. Like I said, Christmas will always be a little different for me after that. It kind of serves as a reminder. I often wonder if I should have been greedy in making my wish. Whenever I start thinking though, I just tell myself no, I made the right one. Since that night there hasn't been one thing out of the ordinary in my house. No more flickering lights, no more dreams, no more waking up, no more Christmas trees sending out Morse code. Hell, when you think about it, now that all the paranormal stuff is gone, I guess I was the one after all who was the scammer. I have this great condo in a subdivision I could never have afforded. I guess I didn't need to make a deal with any devil to have things turn out just fine. Posted by you/RisingMac. We went into the abandoned part of the hospital. It wouldn't let us out. I want to take a moment and tell my buddy and I's story about what happened to us a couple weeks ago at work. We're night shift nurses at a hospital, and while it's not exactly a big hospital, the entire hospital campus has about 4 to 5 buildings with various offices and whatnot. The southernmost building has been shut down and deserted for about 5-ish years now. I think it closed in 2014. Here's a picture of the rear of the building during the day. Anyway, my unit is directly next to this building. We're one of the smaller buildings not in the main hospital. If you walk out the front door of my unit, this building is right there on your left. It's connected by locked double doors in the southeast corner of the first floor. Here's a picture of the doors. It's also connected via the basement, but since those doors apparently don't lock there, there's a fake wall that was put up. Now security has this place locked up tight. It's especially important during cold months since homeless people try to sneak in and squat to get away from the weather. Anyway, for the shit of it, I tried the door one day, and by God it was unlocked. I stepped inside and was immediately set aback by how quiet things had suddenly gotten. I felt like you could hear a pin drop. The doors I came through were heavy, but they shouldn't have blocked out the sound as much as it seemed like they were. And it was cold inside, but honestly, it's November and the heat has long since been shut off, so I didn't think much of that. Anyway, I'm standing there and it's a very long hallway, the length of the building. I take a few more pictures. One thing to keep in mind about these pictures is my phone filter makes it look brighter than it actually is. While there is still some electricity in parts of the building, most of the lighting is emergency lighting. This picture here best demonstrates how dark it is while also showcasing the long hallway. So I'm kind of just hanging out in this one area by the door, and of course I immediately think of a new game. All you had to do was walk the length of the hallway, touch the far door, then walk back. The prize for doing it could range from free lunch to going home early for the day. After I left and went back to my unit, I presented the game to my coworkers. Responses ranged from fuck no to I'll do it right now so I can go home. I wanted to do it myself and explore the abandoned area, but I ended up chickening out. Mainly because nobody else wanted to, and honestly, it looked like a long ass way down to the opposite end. Especially at night looking as dark as it did. The next night my buddy, who we'll call Bob, said he was totally doing it. That shit better still be unlocked, were his exact words. Luckily, or unluckily maybe, the door was still open. We walked in and he said pretty much exactly what I thought to myself the night before. Wow, that's a long ass hallway, longer than I was expecting. I chided him a little. Your ass is going first. All you gotta do is touch the door. I was kinda thinking, why don't you go first? He asked. I could tell he was intimidated by the darkness and the length of the hallway. Like me, he overestimated himself. It was easy to be excited about taking the long walk while in the safety of our nursing unit, but once you were staring down the hallway, it was a different matter. I came up with a better idea. Why don't we just go together? Honestly, there wasn't going to be a prize. Nobody was going home early or getting a free lunch. We weren't even supposed to be in there anyway. So we started the walk towards the door, going slowly not because we're scared or anything, but we're kind of just taking it in and bullshitting about patients and work in general. The place is pretty trashed. This picture of the trash nursing station has a overhead light on, so its brightness is correct. There's an actual patient belonging bag still there, so I had to black out the name. Anyway, we continue on, looking in rooms as we go, and we come to a conclusion as we reach the door. What the hell are we worried about? I ask him. Dude, I was thinking the same thing, Bob said. We're stupid. We're in here worried about ghosts. So we're standing there looking out the door and we can see our cars actually. The employee lot is on the opposite side of that building. Let's just go out and get in our cars and leave, Bob joked. The door had a simple push bar for a lock so we easily could have. If we had been smart, we would have gone out that door. So we start back, totally unfazed by the creepy atmosphere by this point, when I suggest we have a look around. Bob agreed, so we branched off a little bit on the way back. We came across this hydrotherapy tub in one of the rooms. All those CDs and tapes on the floor were nothing but Christian music, which was a little creepy in its own right. A couple more offices that were nothing special. And we found ourselves almost back to the doors we came in. It was at this point I made the moronic suggestion we check out another floor. We both agree on the basement. Confident since we were together, we had high hopes for the basement. Rather than the darker dungeon we were hoping for, it was largely a disappointment. It was not only mostly offices, but the lighting was actually pretty good. Like, all the lights were on. The only thing of note we did find was this caged-off area. I blacked out a partial view of myself, Bob, and I didn't want to be viewed in any pictures. There didn't appear to be anything of note in there except boxes and other worthless crap. This is where I stopped documenting via pictures. Too much going on later and taking pictures was the last thing on my mind. I wonder who they locked up down here back in the day, Bob said. Well, I started. If this had been an old mental hospital, I'm sure we wouldn't want to know. So we're on our way back up and this is where the shit hits the fan. Bob is going first up the stairs, which actually have lights on, and we get to the first floor door and he pretends it's locked. He tries the knob and it doesn't turn, and he tugs on the door to try to open it and it won't. I can't help but chuckle at his feeble attempt, because honestly if I had been first I legit would have done the exact same thing. Dude, it won't open, Bob says. I let him enjoy his moment for a few more seconds. Like, I'm serious, it's locked. At this point I can hear the slight nervousness in his voice. What do you mean it's locked? Here, let me try. I step in for him and he backs up. I'm actually fully expecting the door to swing open when I try it, but it doesn't. He's right, it's locked, the handle won't turn at all. Now I used to do hospital security before I became a nurse. It was at a different hospital than where I am now, but it was the same health system. They needed nurses badly and they were offering to pay for schooling to current employees. You had to commit to 2 full years employment as a nurse after graduating or you had to pay it all back, so here I am a nurse now. Anyway, the point is, I know from experience that psych is the only area where the stairwell doors are locked. This generic door we're standing in front of here should not only not be locked, it doesn't even have a keyhole. It doesn't actually have the ability to even be locked, so what the hell is going on? This shouldn't be locked, I tell him. It physically can't be locked, there's no locking mechanism in these kinds of doors. I point out the lack of keyhole. Kick it in, Bob says. That's not going to do much, I explain. The door opens out into the stairwell, towards us. What do? We both check our phones, of course we have no service. Fuck, Bob groans. Let's go up a couple floors, maybe we can get service then, I say. I'm a very calm person, I have a laid-back demeanor so I tend not to show myself getting worked up. Bob is the opposite. I can tell he's not liking this one bit. Let's go up to 4th floor, I suggest. So we trudge up the stairs. We approach the door, both expecting it to be locked. I was first so I tried the handle, it opened. I peeked into the hallway, everything seemed normal. Light was low but it wasn't super scary dark. I checked my phone and still no service. Let's go down a little bit further, I suggest, hoping somehow being in the center area of the floor might help. Bob nervously agreed. Each floor is essentially the same layout, a long hallway with a branch off in the middle. We both have our phones out as we walk down the hall, neither of us is getting anything. I do get a ping of service for a second, but it goes back to the prohibited sign immediately. Shit, I had service for a second, I say. I'm not getting shit, Bob said. We continue down the hallway and as we reach the halfway point, which has a large nursing station as well as the elevator banks, we hear a door open behind us. Now this place has been abandoned for almost 5 years so nobody has been oiling any hinges. It was one loud, creaky door if I ever heard one. We don't turn around so we don't know which room it was, but we both stop for a second and just look at each other in silence. We hear another creaky door open. Without a word we start running down the hallway the direction we were going. We get to the stairwell door and almost bash it off its hinges trying to get through it. We climb up half a floor and catch our breath. Who the fuck was that? Bob asked. It was probably just some homeless people, I offer, trying to be logical. They probably just heard us and thought they were busted so they were coming out. Why didn't they say anything? Bob asked. I don't know. We both look at our phones. If we could just call someone. The stairwell door on the first floor is literally only a few feet from the door leading in from our unit. Someone could open it from that side, hopefully anyway. I say we go up one more, I tell Bob. Man, let's just go to 6, the top floor, minus the mechanical/maintenance floor at the top, the higher the better for service, right? I expected a little more argument from him for going up instead of down, but was happy he agreed. We trudge up another floor and a half. We slowly open the door and listen. Hello? Bob calls. If anyone is up here squatting, you better come out. We wait a few seconds, silence. We slowly walk out into the hallway. We're both on alert after the door incident as we make our way down to the center of the floor, phones in hand. There's a room with its light on and it looks pretty bright. It'll be a good place to take a break and try our phones. We get there without incident. You got anything? Bob asks. No, I say, checking my phone. I was getting more pings up here, but not anywhere long enough to make a call. I thought about trying to make an emergency call, but calling the police and telling them we're trapped in an abandoned hospital and we're scared shitless didn't seem like a very good idea. Not to mention the shit show we'd be in with management if the actual police had to come let us out. Looking back on it, maybe I should have just called. So we're hanging out in the light room when it happens again. We hear a ding out in the hallway. It's like a bell sound that goes off every other second. We both know damn well what it is, but it's impossible. We peek our head out into the hallway and sure enough, a patient call light has come on at the end of the hallway. The little light bulb on the ceiling right outside their room has illuminated. Ding. 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 This is a problem, because while the electricity is still on in most of the building, the call light system had long since been deactivated and dismantled. That's usually the first thing to go for closed units, since it can be used elsewhere or recycled for parts. In fact, not one of the rooms we had been in even had a call light plugged into the wall. But here it was, a call light was on without physically being possible. What the fuck, is all I can softly muster. We look down the opposite way together, half expecting to see another light come on. Nothing. Fucking run. Bob yells. We take off down the hall. As we near the stairwell door, another light comes on right behind us. Bob shrieked. You don't hear a sound like that from a grown man unless they are in a state of pure terror. He didn't hear what I did though, he was out into the stairs first. Before I got to the door, I heard a voice, very distinct, gruff sounding yet softly spoken, coming from the last room I passed. Nurse? I can honestly sit here and tell you, had I literally not used the facilities just before coming in, I would have legit shit my pants hearing someone's voice call out after everything else that had happened. That's a fun phrase to throw around, like I can't tell you how many times I've said I'd totally shit my pants if such and such happened, but let me tell you, the feeling of being so frightened that loss of bowel control is a distinct possibility is not something I'd ever want anyone to feel. This was real. This was happening. Part of me wanted to believe that it was just a homeless guy in the room, but I knew it wasn't. I get into the stairwell and Bob is on the landing below in between the two floors. I go down the stairs to meet him. What do we do? He's panicking. I pretend to catch my breath, but honestly I can't speak for a second. I'm freaking out as well right now and I am telling myself it's going to be up to me to get us out of here. Bob isn't hysterical yet, but he's not going to be rational much longer. I'm swallowing hard to try and get my heart back down into my chest. I felt like it didn't just leap up into my throat, it tried to come out my mouth and save itself from whatever was happening. It must have skipped about 6 beats in the process. Why the fuck did we come in here? Bob wailed. Okay, I start, finally finding my voice. We seemed to be okay in the stairwell. We had up until that point, and nothing had happened in the few minutes we were standing there. I get an idea. Let's go to 2, there's plenty of trees outside, maybe we can break a window and climb out. All bets were off at this point. This was completely fucked. I had been waiting my whole life to see a ghost or have a true paranormal experience, and let me tell you, this absolutely fucking sucked. Things were getting worse and I truly felt the longer we stayed in here the more danger we were in. We start going down to 2, waiting for what felt like 2 hours to open the door. It was really only about a minute, but we just stood there looking at each other. I didn't want to, but I nut up and go first. I start down the hallway slowly, trying to calculate which rooms had trees nearest to them. Theirs was a big tree I thought might be our best bet, but of course we'd have to go pretty much to the middle of the floor to get to that room. We get to the nurse's station when someone angrily calls. The voice comes from the intercom on the wall. Hey you two, I need a nurse. It sounded like an old lady's voice, a real smoker's voice. Like the kind of voice that an old lady would if she started smoking when she was 10 and smoked right up until her death in her 80s. I've been waiting for my pain meds for 5 goddamn years now. So why did I italicize those last couple words? It's because her voice changed pitch as she was talking. It got super low and deep. I want to avoid saying demonic, but honestly that's what it sounded like. Like when you play a recording and the batteries are dying and the recording slows down and gets deeper and deeper in pitch. That's what her voice did, but we don't have time to piss ourselves over it. Reread it to yourself, but read the italicized words in a distorted, deep voice. We're standing at the nurse's station in shell shock over demon smoker voice lady when something infinitely worse happens. There's an office behind the nurse's station that is very dark. The station where it isn't near as bright as the one in the picture from earlier, so the office in the back is very dim. There's a desk visible though, and since Bob and I are standing right there we're able to see into it. We see movement in the shadows. It was like something getting taller. I guess the best way I can describe it is it was like something was crouching behind the desk and it stood up and came to a full stand. I'm not sure how tall it is, but I'm about 6 feet 1 inch and it appeared to be taller than me. I don't know what it was, a ghost, a shadow person, or something else, but it was definitely not something I wanted to hang around and meet. I grab Bob's arm. Move. As I shove him down the hall. We're dead on sprinting at this point towards the stairs, forgetting all about Smoker Lady and wherever she might be. We're almost to the door when I turn around and look over my shoulder as I'm running. All the lights are going out behind us. Everything. Every possible speck of light is disappearing and the hallway is going absolutely black. I let out the same shriek of unadulterated terror that Bob did earlier. We race down the stairs and Bob grabs at the door to the first floor. Open. Open, you fuck. Of course it doesn't. He even kicks it a couple times. The basement. I yell. I have an idea. It just suddenly comes to me. Because of the small hills around the building, the basement level at the rear of the building actually has windows and a couple doors that go outside. You can see in the picture I posted earlier of the back of the building, the bottom level is actually the basement. Anyway, we get to the basement, lights still on, and we see the fake security wall that was put up. It's like faux wood or something, but it's solid. We both kick at it but it won't budge. I go back to my original plan of finding a window. I know the windows are towards the center of the building, so we're making our way there when we pass the cage again. Here's the pic again to remind you, https://imgur.com/5j7ktwb. I wanted you to see it again because now the padlock is on the floor and the gate is about a quarter open. Bob and I quickly shoot looks at each other, eyes wide, but don't say anything and keep going. I get to where I think we should be and try a door. It's locked of course, but the lock feels natural. The knob actually twists and moves. I start looking around for something to hit it with. I'm not a small guy and I exercise, but I honestly don't think I could kick the door in with just my foot. Here! Bob shouts. He was thinking the same thing. He runs a few feet away and grabs a first extinguisher off the wall and hands it to me. I'm bigger than he is, so it makes sense I should try it. I take a few steps back to act as a wind-up and then kind of hop forward and smoke the ever-loving fuck out of the door as hard as I can. I've seen enough shows that say you're supposed to aim for the doorknob area, so that's what I do. It sounds like a gunshot as I make contact and the door buckles and caves slightly, but doesn't open. I hit it again with a deafening thud and it swings open. Yes. Bob hollers. Might have been premature until we find out what is in this room. I look around to see what we have. It's a receptionist area. There are 2 more offices on either side of the area, but more importantly along the back wall, a row of windows. I push the receptionist's desk against the wall. It's not that heavy, actually felt kind of cheap, towards the windows since only the top of the window is actually glass. We're going to have to go up and over. Bob is behind me telling me to hurry. I climb up on the desk, turn my face away, and bash out the glass. I'm sliding the extinguisher along the edges of the sill to make it as safe as possible for us to go through when Bob yells out another heart-stopping phrase. Oh fuck dude, the lights are going out again. He had been peeking out in the hallway while I was working on the window. Probably felt like he was watching our backs. I climbed through the window and touched down outside. The cold, fresh air felt great. Here's the rear building again. The very bottom floor window banks in the middle is where we're coming out. Right by the tree with bright green leaves. Anyway, I touch down seconds after Bob says the lights are going out. I turn around and see him running towards the window. The lights in the hallway go dark as he's climbing out. I grab his hand in a bro squeeze, you know, palms of the same hand embracing, and pull him through when we're stopped dead. Something's got him. Oh my fuck, It's got me. He's absolutely hysterical, and with good reason. I've got his right hand in the bro squeeze, so I move closer and he uses his other arm to wrap around my torso as I wrap mine around his. He's shrieking and losing his shit as I'm pulling hard to try and get him out. Don't let go. Now, I'm not about to let go, but part of me doesn't want to get dragged back in. And this is the strange part. I don't know what had him or what's its play was, but it didn't seem like it was actually trying to pull him back in. It's almost like he was just holding him there, getting a kick out of us freaking out. So remember when I said earlier that if you walk out of my unit and look left there's the abandoned building? Well, if you look to the right it's the emergency room. So while we're making our great escape, security is out in the ER lot giving someone a jumpstart. They hear the glass break and security apparently tells the guy he has to go check it out. I guess the guy said he was coming with him. He didn't want security going by themselves in the dead of night. That was pretty awesome of him. Anyway, security shows up as I'm trying to yank Bob free as he's shrieking and having a meltdown. I see them out of the corner of my eye. Security has this look on his face like, what in the fuck is this? But the other guy, he springs right into action. He rushes over and wraps his arms around Bob's lower back and gut and puts him in a bear hug. He starts pulling and almost immediately whatever had Bob lets go. It's like a slingshot. Bob shoots out as this guy and I fall back. We all hit the ground in this giant blob of manliness. Bob immediately crawls over to the big ass flashlight / lantern security had brought, like the light would somehow keep him safe. To his credit, the lantern did give off a ton of light and it did provide a little comfort. Things calm down and we have to explain to security just what in the hell just happened. By this time it seems like the entire security third shift has shown up. Bob has calmed down quite a bit by now as we give statements. I basically try to make it sound like we were stuck inside, trying to leave out as many ghostly activities as possible. Bob, despite his trauma, is smart enough to do the same. So the door was unlocked? One officer asked. His shirt was a different color. I figured he was the supervisor. Well, we fucked up there, he said. I'm not sure why the stairway was locked though, the responding officer said. The story of our night, man, Bob returned. You guys got balls, man, security said. Even we don't go in there at night. Trust me, I said. Don't. Bob and I knew we'd be getting in trouble for this, we just hoped all we would have do is pay for the window and not get fired. Security wrapped up and we made our way back to work ourselves. We finished out our shift to many questions from coworkers. Basically all we said was we got locked in, had no service, so we broke ourselves out. We laid low until morning when our manager came in. We purposely stayed behind after giving patient report to the next shift. We were in the break room when we hear our boss out in the hall. Are Bob and I still here? We come out of the break room. You too, she points at us. She's definitely not surprised there were shenanigans at work and the two of us were involved. My office. We got yelled at for sure, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been. She basically told us she didn't want to hear any ghost stories and don't tell her exactly what happened, she didn't care. Usually managers say that so they don't have to explain too much to their own superiors. She said the window and the door, I had completely forgotten about that, we totally destroyed that door, we're sure as hell coming out of our checks, but we weren't getting fired. Mainly because our records are sublime. We have more patient compliments and requests for us to be their nurses again than we do complaints by almost 3 to 1. Also neither of us has called off in over a year nor have we been formally written up or disciplined in the same time frame. She said they'd hate to lose us over something stupid like this. She did add though, even if the door was unlocked, if we ever go in there again, we're fucking fired. She didn't actually swear, but you could tell the way she said it that's what she meant. Bob and I gave each other a look that meant we were both thinking the same thing. She didn't have to worry about that because we sure as shit are never going in there again. But we didn't say it, we just agreed. A couple days later the guy who was getting a jump from security reached out to me on Facebook. His name was Jim and it turns out he was a retired paramedic, which is why he was so quick to act when he saw us in trouble. He said he kept thinking about something after he went home that kept him up that night. He asked if I would indulge him with some specifics about what we experienced. He told me he had interest in the paranormal and promised it was just between us. I basically filled him in on what we experienced, and afterwards he said he believed us. I asked him why exactly. I mean, I didn't know this guy and of course we had no proof. What made this any different from the phonies on TV who hunt ghosts? But then he told me what had kept him up at night. He told me that when he grabbed Bob and tried to get him out, even though it was only a second or two before Bob was freed, he said he could feel the resistance. Like there was someone, or something, inside holding on to Bob's leg. Bob and I didn't notice, but when we crawled away over to the light, Jim shined his pocket flashlight into the window and said nothing was there. He said he shined it all over the immediate area in the office we came out of and there was nothing, no loose wires hanging from the ceiling, simply nothing that Bob could have gotten his leg hung up on. He even told security in his statement that it felt like someone was holding on to Bob from inside. He said this was as close to having a paranormal experience he's ever had. I told him hopefully that's all the closure he ever gets. Well, there you have it. Most people have a ghost story they experience at some point in their life, so that's mine. Frankly, I hope it's the only one I ever have. If I live out the rest of my life and die an old man and never have another paranormal experience, it'll still be too soon. I never want to experience anything like that again. And stay away from abandoned hospitals and medical buildings, even if the opportunity to explore presents itself. It doesn't have to be an old mental hospital like it always is on TV to be haunted or house terrible things. Thanks for reading.